Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for taking time to come out. We know it's a really busy time of year, and we also know, both given some of the horrendous tragedies that have occurred, as well as the beginning of our new school year, that while safety and security has always been a priority, we know that it's very important to our community right now more than ever. And so with that, we wanted to provide an update to our entire community, and again, reiterate that safety and security is our number one goal, always. It has been and it will continue to be. And we know that we need to be even more vigilant and ensure that we are thinking about all the things that need our attention. So the safety and security of our team, for our staff, of our students, is always going to be a responsibility that we put before all others. And as we focus on bringing this safety and security, we're also always going to have excellence and equity in the forefront, ensuring that all of our students and team members are kept in safe, secure environments. We're going to continue to work on all measures that we can think of to be proactive. We want to continue to have the safe schools that we have had in the past so that our students and our team can enjoy teaching and learning and growing together. I want to take a minute to address the fact that for educators, for parents, this is really a difficult time. Schools should be a place of joy. We should be talking about content and projects and recess. But we also know the realities of today, and it requires us to also talk about drills and practices, about things that we don't think, certainly during the time that I was in a school, were not things that I was thinking about. So with regard to facilities and our team, it's really important that we begin by thanking our voters. Because of the Dallas voters and the 2020 bond, we have been able to invest over $100 million in some facility school safety measures, such as upgrading and adding campus security cameras. That's over $50 million. Ensuring that all of our facilities have keyless entries, access to schools, and always having video doorbells so that our team members can see who is at the door entry. Ensuring that even as we construct and renovate facilities, we look at ensuring we have those secure vestibules that we know play a vital role in keeping our kids safe, our team members safe. Weapon detection systems, that's another $6 million. Classroom safety door locks and devices so that we can ensure that we take every step to prevent harm from coming into our classrooms. Those are some of the higher investments that total more than $95 million. We've also invested in a lot of professional development because at the end of the day, we also know that people are our biggest assistance in ensuring that we know of dangers that may be coming to our schools. We also know that this continual training cannot be just a one and done. So our police department, I've been meeting with Chief Lawton. Chief Lawton has been meeting with our departments from school leadership. We have a variety of committees and groups of individuals that have been working with us. Safety is a very complex problem. There are so many unknowns and there are so many interrelated issues, and that is why it takes all of us to work together. Some of the other areas that we're also working on, of course, is even upgrading and providing additional training to our hall monitors so that ultimately we can move by adding to our security guards that have additional training. Social media. Our police department works with other agencies to ensure that we're continually monitoring and responding. We are investigating social media. It's very important that we continue to do that. We know that at the campus level, our secondary schools have our weapon detections, our metal detectors for entrances. We also have moved some of our campuses to having clear and mesh backpacks. Many of our secondary schools already had those in place. Many of them, that was a campus-based decision. However, we have moved that for all 6th to 12th graders. That will be an expectation of our students, and the district will provide assistance for any of our students who are having challenges in obtaining clear or mesh backpacks. And I've certainly followed the media on some of our measures and know that there's conflicting information about just how well backpacks actually create some safety by being proactive. And the truth is, there is no one right answer. This is going to require a multi-pronged approach. This is about layering our safety and security protocols. It's not going to be one thing and it's going to be fixed or corrected overnight. So we're going to continue to employ some of the things that have kept our schools safe. Our kids and our parents have done a phenomenal job. When they see something, they say something. And we have been able to be proactive in many areas because our students and parents come forward. And I want to encourage our parents to please continue to have conversations with your children at home and report any concerns to any adult on our campuses or any of our staff, team members at all. We would rather you report something even if you don't think maybe it's not significant. Let our team of our police department and our professionals help you with some of that decision making. Ultimately, it's going to take a team approach. We have been able to keep our schools very safe, and we want to continue to do that, and it will require everyone's assistance. I also want to just mention that, even the CDC has now reminded us all that gun violence is the #1 hazard to teens and children in America today. Since 2020, gun violence is the largest negative cause of death to our kids. So I'm also asking our parents to help us. There's a Be Smart campaign. If you have guns at home, please work with us to make sure that we're keeping those guns locked, unloaded, safe, away from our kids. The horrible tragedies that have occurred certainly bring to light the terrible things that can happen. And I also want to remind all of us that we also have other deaths that are occurring because of gun violence, and there's some steps we can take to ensure that our kids stay safe in and outside of school. And in closing, I want to thank all of our team members, our parents, community members. People have served on committees and helped us and given us ideas so that we can work together. Every one of our measures is not going to sit well with every single member, and we're going to continue to do everything that we can. And some folks are going to feel that some of our measures may be inconveniencing some folks, and we're going to continue to monitor, evaluate. We're running protocols, we're doing drills, we debrief after we do drills, we make adjustments if necessary. And I'm going to ask everyone, we all have to work together to make sure our schools continue to remain safe so that we're not having a press conference about a tragedy that's occurred in any of our schools. It will take all of us. I'm grateful that we're in Dallas ISD. I'm grateful we're in Dallas. I'm grateful we have our own police department. I'm grateful for our community. We need everyone's assistance, and we're going to make sure that from day one, we are responsive so that we can be proactive so that we're not being reactive. So I'll be able to take a few questions.
As we do that, some of you may not have had her spelling. If you wanted real quick?
Oh, sure, I forget about that. Stephanie Elizalde, Stephanie, Elizalde, Elizalde. And I'm very thankful to serve as the superintendent of Dallas ISD. I was here before, so I don't feel like this is all new. So
We'll take a few questions, and matter of fact, before you do that, could you do a little bit of that in Spanish?
I thought, okay, let me do a little bit in Spanish. Where are my Spanish folks here? Okay, en español. La seguridad de nuestros estudiantes y personal es nuestra máxima prioridad y lo tomamos muy serio. Al mismo tiempo que llevamos la excelencia y equidad para mantener que cada estudiante esté en un lugar seguros para el aprendizaje. Sabemos que necesitan varias medidas. Hemos puesto más de $100 millones, cámaras de seguridad, puertas de acceso sin llave, sistemas de detección de armas, timbres con video, aparatos de seguridad para las puertas de los salones. También tenemos capacitación profesional para emergencias, centro de operaciones para emergencias. Es muy importante que pedimos que los padres hablen con los niños cuando llegan de los salones en casa para preguntar cómo pasó el día, si hay información que es importante, que siempre reporten si tienen dudas, porque es mejor que nosotros podemos investigar algo de que no sabemos que algo está pasando. Tenemos también para los estudiantes, pedimos que tengan las mochilas transparentes o de malla para mejorar la seguridad. Y el distrito va a ayudar a los estudiantes que es difícil para comprar esas mochilas. La decisión de sugerencias y datos de un grupo de trabajo interno y externo y respuestas a una encuesta para los padres. Es importante saber que los padres son parte de la solución. Por favor, que se conecten con las escuelas. Y también es importante que los padres sepan que si hay armas en casa, que por favor los toman de seguridad descargadas y fuera del alcance de los hijos. Sabemos que hasta este momento todavía armas son la razón número uno que fallecen los niños en los Estados Unidos. Gracias.
And then we'll take a few in Spanish, a few questions in English and Spanish, and we'll start here.
Doctor, can you tell us a little bit about the training that the teacher has in the past? How many training they have, and what the training consists in?
So I'm not exactly sure on the number that we're doing, and the Texas Education Agency has put out some best practices. We do know that we do have to have at least 2 of these drills throughout the year. Although there are no requirements, what we do know through best practice is if you don't practice them, then in the moment, we really don't know how we're going to respond. Now, we don't always have to have these practices, though, full scale in real time. There are many things, many of you may be familiar with what are called table exercises, because we also have to be mindful, especially at the elementary level, that when we're running these drills, particularly if we're talking about active shooter drills, these can be very traumatizing. And so it has to be a balance. That's why these situations are so complex, because there's no one size fits all. It's not a list of boxes that we're going to check off. And so we will be having a minimum of 2 per year, but then upon how a school or a facility responds to that drill, will then maybe create some need for additional drills or additional training. The most important thing that we do know is the communication has been critical in all of these events, both events that ended in terrible tragedies, as well as situations that have ended with some individuals not even recognizing what was happening on a campus. So when we have communication about where do we go, how do we lock the door, who do we communicate with to let them know where there's danger, those are going to be the key priorities that we're going to continue to focus on.
Right here, Steve.
Dr. Elizalde, right at the end of this school year, this past school year for Dallas ISD, you had an active shooter at an Asian beauty salon 100 yards from Walnut Hill Elementary School. And then you had a number of Dallas ISD police officers and DPD officers on security and detail at Woodrow Wilson High School because of concern about safety and security. There wasn't a lockdown at Walnut Hill when that shooting occurred. And then there was concern about what happened at Woodrow Wilson. My question is, are there any specific incidents or concerns you have on safety and security right now in this school district as you head into this school year based on those events that affect this school district specifically?
Thank you for that, Steve. I know our team did a debrief on both of those situations. I certainly hadn't been part of the district at that time yet. We have met regarding those. We have put some adjustments in place. So based on the distance of where a situation is occurring, we will put our schools in a variety of different types of, let's call them like security measure. So we could be putting them in a hold, a secure. So sometimes something's happening outside of school, like the example you gave with Walnut Hill. So what do we want to do? We want to make sure we don't have anybody leaving or entering the campus during that period of time. So within approximately a half-mile radius of our schools, I think I'm correct on that. Am I correct, Chief? I think it was half a mile. We will put schools in secure. We don't want, again, you know, all of this is so, it's such a delicate balance. Do we traumatize kids every time something's happening? And yet, how do we ensure that we have safety? So we want the day to continue as normal as possible while also maintaining safety. So putting them in hold or a secure doesn't mean, oh my gosh, everyone's shelter in place, but it does mean we're not going to let anybody inside the building. So if you were coming for a parent conference, we're going to be very courteous and we're going to say, right now, we're in a hold, and we'll reschedule that conference, because the best thing for us is to keep things going normally in a school while also ensuring we know who's entering and who's leaving our building. Why leaving? We also don't want to put anyone in any harm's way while they're leaving our facilities either. So those are some of the adjustments that we've made. The other is with regard to interdepartment communication. And I know the debriefing that our chief of police has done with others is that's what I alluded to earlier, is that communication piece. If all of the entities aren't talking with each other and understanding who's on site and who's actually taking command of any given situation, we lose precious time. But our experts have worked on that.
And just to follow up, any indication right now of any concerns on safety and security?
No, I'm actually feeling as secure as one can feel. Because let's be honest, these are, again, so many unknowns. We are working with the experts to plan for as many different scenarios. But I would definitely want to give other people a chance. Steve?
Natalia, and then we'll go here, and then back to the side of the room. Natalia.
Thanks, Dr. Elizalde. Can you update us on the progress of the facilities audit that Governor Abbott requested from schools over the summer? Have there been any findings that have been flagged to you 2 weeks out?
Yeah, I'm still looking into, they're still working on that particular facilities audit. What I can tell you is even before I left Dallas ISD, we already did audits of all our facilities. We even had, I'm going to call them, for lack of a better description, mystery shoppers. That was before Governor Abbott. I was here in Dallas as the chief of school leadership, and I would not know, but there would be staff members that would go out to our schools to see if they could get access into our buildings. And that's when we would discover, you know, a teacher's bringing in a lot of materials, they prop the door open so they can bring things in. We now know that we'll go help the teacher bring things in, and our teachers have been really good about recognizing that that's no longer a practice that we can do. So they'll give me a final report, but I also know that any findings are being prioritized. So if we find door locks that aren't working, any safety and security work orders go to the very top of the list, right? They're not going to be handled in the order in which they're received. They're going to be handled on how important it is.
We're gonna go one in Spanish, and then we'll come back over, it was Wayne and over here.
Mi pregunta es algo similar a la de ella, específicamente lo que sucedió en Rodman Elementary. El maestro Arnulfo había indicado que su salón de clases no atrancaba adecuadamente. Usted habló sobre la inversión que se está llevando a cabo en este distrito escolar. Es el segundo más grande del estado de Texas. ¿Cuál es la prioridad si uno de los maestros indica que algo no está funcionando en su salón de clases? ¿Eso va a ser prioridad para el distrito y en cuánto tiempo se debería de arreglar algo como la puerta, por ejemplo?
Algo, bueno, todo, cada, algo que es de la seguridad tiene que ser prioridad. Va a llegar al nivel más alto de la lista de lo que se necesita atender. Entonces, yo espero que en menos de 24 horas una puerta se debe de corregir inmediatamente. Vamos a tener, ya tenemos en el inventory, porque no sé la palabra en español, y mi papá lo va a ver y me va a corregir. Pero bueno, es importante ya tener lo que se necesita para hacer, para corregir cosas que vamos a saber que van a pasar, para que no vamos a estar en un lugar de, pues no tenemos lo que se necesita para corregir. Pero quiero que cada empleado sepa que si hay algo que necesita atención, y en este distrito tenemos tecnología que podemos poner, esto es algo que se necesita atención, entonces podemos saber cuánto tiempo se está tardando para corregir esos problemas. Pero si hay duda, deben de ir al director o la directora inmediatamente.
We don't have a ton of time left, but we're gonna go Wayne, in community impact, Spanish, and then we'll, right here, please, and then our last one here on radio.
Can you talk a little bit about partnerships? A few weeks ago, you guys announced that you were working with like 5 other school districts to kind of discuss with each other how you were handling safety and what things you can do as a group so that it can kind of help you guys learn from one another and in your relationship with law enforcement. And also if you could talk about just kind of that partnership with law enforcement. It's one of the criticisms that came out of Uvalde that sure, you can do all these things in the classroom, and yes, you have your own police department, but others respond. You talked about communication, but are there drills, or are there work? What's happening with the partnership?
Yeah, I may bring up Chief Lawton to give you the actual, rather than hearing it from me, third hand. However, we do know, again, our district has always ensured, and we've upgraded radios to make sure that we don't have an issue of our police department not being able to communicate with Dallas, with DPD. And I know they were working on getting with surrounding school districts. You make a really good point. When we all communicate and have the same types of terminology, like a school's on hold, a school's on secure, and we give those definitions out to our public, it's really reassuring, I think, to our parents that, oh, this is the way they do it in other schools. This may be one of those where instead of each of us feeling like we have to have our own identity, safety and security is so important. Wherever we can be consistent, regardless of which ISD it is, we need to work together to do that. Chief, maybe you can address getting together with other entities.
Absolutely. So, first of all, my name is John Lawton. I'm the Chief of Police for the Dallas ISD Police Department. First name spelled John, last name Lawton. With me today, I have Major Sarmiento. He's a representative of the Dallas Police Department. And the question with regards to partnerships are very, very important for us, not only through figuring out who's going to be in charge, understanding protocols, how we're going to work together, but also the communication piece. And so I can tell you, as far as the Dallas ISD Police Department, our relationship with the Dallas Police Department, Dallas Sheriff's Office, any other law enforcement entity is very important. In fact, just last week, we conducted an exercise, an active shooter exercise, which consisted of Dallas Fire Rescue, Dallas ISD Police Department, and of course, Dallas Police Department. And in that exercise, what we practice are just if we were to get into a room and the door was locked, we needed to get into a room and the door was locked. If a door was open, we gave our SWAT teams from Dallas Police Department an opportunity to also participate in practice and making sure that our communications were in connect, our interoperability is what we call it, to make sure that that was effective. So I'm not sure if I answered all of your question, but we do have a great relationship, and we do, as recent as last week, we worked together to identify any challenges that we may come up with as far as if we are called out to a critical incident, and we have to work together.
And your plans to keep doing that, right?
And we will continue to do that. We will continue to do that. Yes, sir.
Okay, and so we've got a few more minutes, and we'll come to community impact, Laura with Revision, and then we'll end here.
What has been the process of implementing those security improvements from the 2020 bond? Are they currently in classrooms and campuses?
So there are some that have been completed. We've got a table of where what's already been done. So for instance, vestibules, even when I was here with the district almost 10 years, again, my last position serving our schools directly, we were already working with bond from the 2015 bond on those vestibules. I mean, those secure vestibules are like the best practice because you can contain, if you will, in an area completely away from the rest of the school. And anyone that knows anything about Dallas ISD and knows the age of our facilities knows that many of our facilities didn't have that. So from the 2015 bond all the way to the 2020 bond, any new renovations that are of significant amount, the vestibule's the first place. So what we have is a list of where have those been done, completed, where are the ones that are in place, where are the ones that are still to come. If we don't have them, then what are the other protocols that we have in place? For instance, those access key cards. You may not have a vestibule, but if you've got that access key card and a video doorbell, you know, unfortunately, we do have to learn from these horrific events. We could have seen in that particular video, if you do study the horrendous tragedy in Uvalde, you can see the weapon. We could have kept an individual outside of the building. Now, is that going to work in every situation? If you can't see it, how do you know? So I want to just reiterate, we're continuing to work and ask those questions and then train our staff. So what we basically have is a listing of here's what's done, here's what's in process and date to be completed, and what's to come. And then we continue to monitor those. Where was the next one? Over here. Oh.
Go
No,
ahead.
we're good. Is that listing available?
It's still, we're still working on it, but we can make that available. Yeah, and staff is looking at me because now I've committed to something. So yes, we will get that to you.
Laura, and then we'll end here.
Okay?
Superintendente, ayer le preguntábamos a los papás, porque dijimos que íbamos a estar aquí y usted iba a estar hablando de seguridad. La gran mayoría de los papás están aterrorizados.
Ujú.
Creen que esto no es suficiente.
Ujú.
¿Cuál es su mensaje para esos papás que aún escuchándole hoy creen que no es suficiente?
Pues es importante saber qué es lo que piensan si es suficiente, porque a lo mejor es algo que sí podemos hacer que no hemos pensado. Es importante tener esta comunicación. Si los padres tienen ideas, yo quiero escuchar esas ideas. Quiero que vayan con los directores, que den información de lo que ellos esperan de las escuelas, porque si lo podemos hacer, lo vamos a hacer. Pero sí estamos continuando a hablar con los que son expertos en esta área para saber que vamos a hacer las cosas, que tenemos datos que nos puede dar información sobre qué es lo que es mejor para las escuelas. Pero sí quiero que los padres comuniquen con nosotros.
Is there a plan regarding potential discipline of employees or teachers? Let's say, they've been trained, but if someone does prop a door open, for example, or if someone doesn't lock a door, or if someone doesn't follow the training? Is there a plan as far as potential discipline there?
Well, those are also the really difficult situations of putting in rules and processes that we can put down on paper, and we certainly want to have an emphasis on this is serious and we need to take measures to ensure those things aren't happening. I can also tell you that this is so important that it's going to take more than just, if this happens, this is the discipline that will occur. So will there be? Yes, there will. That is not what I believe is going to motivate our folks to do what is in the best interest of everyone on our campuses. I have not met a staff member in the last 2 years that I don't think takes this very seriously. I think some of our biggest challenges are usually our teenagers, because teens think that they are, they're going to live forever and nothing's going to happen to them. So where we find the areas where we've really had our biggest challenges is with our teens who think, oh, I didn't want to go walk around all the way to the front, so they open a door for one of their friends. Those are the areas where we really need to have more training, communication with our students so that they can recognize how important that kind of safety and security is for everyone in the building. So you raise a really good point, and we'll continue to have conversations with how do we do that. Ultimately, yes, we will take disciplinary action, but I think all of that would be, again, reactive. Our goal here is to be proactive.
So can you talk a little bit about the metal detectors? Which school are the ones who's going to have those? And this is a randomly, it's going to be an everyday procedure for the students to go into the school?
Again, since I have rejoined, I want to make sure I have this correctly. I do believe all of our secondary schools, so middle schools and high schools, all of those will have the metal detectors, and students, staff, guests, we walk through those as we enter the facilities. Our elementary schools is not an area that I'm comfortable, again, what's reasonable and what makes the school now feel like a prison. And there are no right answers. So we're going to continue to recognize that we do have experience that the majority of students that have had access to weapons tend to be students that are the secondary age. So that's why metal detectors are at our secondary schools. With regard to elementaries, we're going to continue to have just conversations around safety and security. Now, most of our schools, if not all of them, I have to go back and check, also have the ability, if they don't have them, they can always contact our department. We have those metal detector wands that can be used similar to what you've seen at airports if they need to double check you because you go through and you sound off the metal detector. We also know that's not a one size that's going to solve our problems either. It's multiple layers, multiple protocols. It's not one thing. It's a series of things, and communication, I want to close with this. The communication has been our number one way of being proactive. If you see something, please say something. We'll continue to put the rest of our facilities and our training measures in place, and the communication, there is no substitute for people giving us information. So, thank you so much.